It's honestly not so long ago in England's recent history that we were blessed at fullback positions, and even with all that talent available, you could pick who was going to start on either wing. It would probably be Luke Shaw on the left and Kyle Walker on the right. But there has been a changing of the guard in recent years, and it's difficult now, very difficult, to pick England's starting back four, particularly on the fullback position. I could ask 10 or 15 different English fans and they would all give me a different combination. So today I am having a look at the right back and the left back position. Who should start for England at the World Cup? This is arguably Tuchel's biggest selection headache because it's a key part of the team. The whole back four is a selection headache for Thomas Tuchel that he needs to figure out. He does have options available, doesn't he? And this is what this video is about. Let's start with the right back options. So, as I was saying at the start of this video, Kyle Walker, for many, many years, great servant to England, alongside Kieran Trippier, were England's right backs. They were literally England's starting right backs, and nobody was complaining about that. They were both fantastic. Kyle Walker in particular, playing at the top of his game in a top Manchester City team. But Kyle Walker's now 35 years old. He'll be 36 by the time the World Cup comes around. And even in the last game against Senegal, where Kyle Walker did start, again now, much to people's frustrations, because we'll have a look at some of the other options that Tuchel's got in a moment. But Kyle Walker, in his recent outing against Senegal, looked weak, didn't he? Or he looked like he's obviously lost a bit of pace. He's not the player he once was. And we're at a stage now where we need to be moving past Kyle Walker, or that's certainly what it seems like we need to be doing. And with that in mind, there are some relatively obvious standouts, and it's probably the most difficult position to pick here. There's a couple of players who we may be arguing to play either right back or left back, but one of the most immediate replacements for Kyle Walker is, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who over this summer has made his move to Real Madrid. And for a lot of people, he's England's starting right back. But he isn't without his controversy, is he? Because for a lot of people as well, he isn't the best defender. He's a great player going forward, probably the best passer of the ball that England maybe would have on the pitch if he were to start. But Gareth Southgate struggled to include him, didn't he? Hence the reason why Kyle Walker had so many games under him. And it's where Trent sort of fits into this England system. Most people believe, actually, that he's more of a midfielder, isn't he? Playing on that right-hand side. But he's not going to fit into England that way. Saka is very much the player out on that right, high up the pitch. And can he really play those middle of the park roles? I'm not sure he can really. So Trent, for England at least, has very much been a square peg in a round hole, and it'll be interesting to see how Real Madrid employ him. But because of those reasons, he isn't a starter necessarily for England. I mean, genuinely, I'm not sure I would pick Trent as my starting right back. There are, of course, other options though, and one of the most outstanding candidates is Reece James. Now, he is one of these players that could potentially play left back as well, but if we're looking at him at a right back perspective, first and foremost, I think if everybody's fit, genuinely, if everybody's fit, healthy, well, and playing consistently for their club, Reece James, for English fans, obviously not speaking for everybody here, but I think for the vast majority of England fans, he is a starter at the World Cup next year. Whether that's on the right or the left. He can play left back, of course, but he is a right back, isn't he? And he is going to be well within a shout of having that starting shirt come next summer. The problem is, as we all know, is his fitness record. I mean, the man has legs like poppadoms. He cannot stay fit. However, there has been a little shining light at the end of this season. He has managed to stay fit in the second half of this season. He's currently out in the Club World Cup with Chelsea at the moment. All fingers crossed staying fit, but it feels like for Reece James, for him to stay fit for another 12 months, I mean, when was the last time he did that in his career? It seems like a big ask. An injury is going to be ultimately the biggest barrier for Reece James going to the World Cup and starting for England next summer. I think he offers that better balance though in regards to a defensive duty. I think he's a far better defender than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Maybe not as strong going forward, but he's certainly not as big of a dip from a defensive perspective going forward as what Trent is at being the back, if you get what I mean. So he's still pretty strong going forward is what I'm saying, whereas Trent, I think, is much weaker at the back. So I think Reece James is much more of a balanced player in general, and I think that's what England need. And rather than trying to find a system that fits Trent Alexander, because I don't think he's that good, I don't don't think we should build a team around him. So I think Reece offers us that flexibility within the system that England like to play, or at least Thomas Tuchel likes to play, and that's 4 at the back and very much the wide players further up the pitch. There are, of course, other right-back options as well, and one of them who is currently playing incredibly well, actually, in the first opening games in the Under-21 European Championships, and that is, of course, Tino Llorente. He's a massive player for a lot of fans, and people love him. The English fans love him at the minute, the Newcastle fans love him at the minute, and you can see why. He's a big lad, but he moves quite gracefully, doesn't he? And he's got that attacking threat, he's got that defensive balance as well. Pretty similar to Reece James, actually, in that balance and style of his play. But for Thomas Tuchel, will he trust someone as young as Livramento next summer? He's already spoken about that experience, that balance, and when you've got people like Reece James and Trent possibly then on the bench, it seems unlikely, doesn't it, that Livramento will start next summer for England, but he's certainly in with a shout, and if he carries on the trajectory he's currently going, he may actually force his way in. He may give Thomas Tuchel no option at all but to play him in that position, because fan pressure will count. I think overall they're the main competitors for that right back position, and if it was me starting the World Cup tomorrow, under current form, under current fitness, I would genuinely go for Reece James at the minute at right back, personally. Trent possibly alongside Livramento a close second. The problem is I don't see Trent as an out-and-out right back, which makes it difficult for me to pick him there. I think for England he's a bit of a luxury player, which may mean he's one of those top players who potentially misses out on starting for England. And that might sound absolutely crazy, potentially to Real Madrid fans, to Liverpool fans, and to fans across the world. But this isn't a new problem for England. Fitting Trent into this England team has been a consistent issue. And that brings us on to our left-back position, and this is where England are weaker. They are weaker, and we have always been weaker, really, for a long period of time. We saw the issues going back to the last Euros where we couldn't find almost that left-footed player, could we? Or that left side just always seemed to struggle. Granted, it was further up the pitch, but overall we missed Luke Shaw, and there was loads of issues out there. Luke Shaw is, of course, still in contention of starting for England in that left-back position. He is only 29 years old, so he won't be too old. He's another Reece James, isn't he? As he's got older, he just cannot stay fit. And you look at him now, and he seems to be carrying a little bit away, and he always has done, quite frankly, during his career, so maybe that isn't the problem. But he just seems like a fading star now, Luke Shaw, and I think he's been a great player for England, absolutely fantastic, offers again that perfect balance between defensive duties and attacking threat. Some iconic moments, particularly that goal in that European final. But you feel like there's players who are probably pushing themselves ahead of Luke Shaw, and probably quite a number of them, despite it being an area of the pitch where we are struggling for depth. For a long period, it seemed like Ben Chilwell would be the obvious competitor or perhaps replacement for Luke Shaw when he got injured or whatever, but it just hasn't happened, has it, for Ben Chilwell? He seems to have hit a peak and then never really gone on from there. And I think now, a bit like Luke Shaw, he's probably dropped off the pecking order a little bit. So who does that leave us with? And one of the most obvious at the minute is, of course, Lewis Skelly, who has been phenomenal. He's been absolutely phenomenal for Arsenal this campaign, and he looks the real deal, doesn't he? He looks exactly the real deal. He's balanced, he's attacking threat, he's defensively minded, he's quite strong, very young, which again may be the thing that Tuchel's looking at and feels a little bit edgy about. He didn't have a great game against Senegal the other night neither. Only 18 years of age, but honestly, on the balance of play this year, he is England's best left back currently in the country. He's England's best left back based on the season he's had at Arsenal. And next year, ultimately we are looking towards next summer's World Cup, he will have had another 12 months under his belt, hopefully playing at the highest level, hopefully playing in the Champions League, and he's only going to go, hopefully, from strength to strength. And I think at the minute the shirt's his to lose. I quite honestly believe that, because there isn't a huge amount of competition in there. He's doing absolutely everything right, and he might be one of those that is just going to force Tuchel's hand. He's going to have to play him, because why wouldn't he? Another player who earlier in the season seemed to be much further ahead of Lewis Skelly and another young player, and that is, of course, Rico Lewis at Manchester City. But he had a couple of poor England games, didn't he, early in the campaign, and I still think he's in with a shout, absolutely, still very young player. Lewis Skelly is definitely gone above him at the minute, but he is very versatile, he's quick. I don't think he's defensively as strong as Lewis Skelly, but he could still be a very, very valuable player for England, and in an area of the pitch where we're not blessed. Another huge player there who, for a lot of people, apart from Newcastle fans, may have dropped off your radar a little bit, and that is, of course, Lewis Hall, who up until his injury last season was absolutely flying, would have been nailed on for an England starting position. But his injury was significant. He's been out for a number of months. He's obviously due back fit for next season, or will be, so he will have next season to build his way back up again, and it's going to be difficult for him to find that form. But if he does find that form, Lewis Hall and Lewis Skelly, possibly the two Lewises, are definitely going to have a little bit of a battle off for that left back position. And honestly, I couldn't call it, because both at certain times of the season were playing phenomenal football, arguably two of the best left backs in the league. And to be honest with you, looking at where England are now in that left back position, England need it. England need a fully fit Lewis Hall. We need him to perform the way he has done last season and push on and really push for a starting position. I think the left back post, Tuchel's going to have to be open to the fact that he's going to take an inexperienced player in that position, and he's going to have to live with it. He's going to have to find a balance, and will that dictate in terms of who he plays at centre back from an experience perspective? If it was me right now, genuinely, I would play Lewis Skelly at left back alongside Reece James at right back. They would be my two starting fullbacks, but Lewis Hall, honestly, I really want him to start pushing Lewis Skelly next season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've made it this far in the video, please hit that subscribe button. I am only a small channel. Every subscriber massively counts and helps me out a load. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all on my next video.